Welcome to the first episode of Is It Really That Bad? The show where we look at a piece of media that was a critical and or commercial failure, and we decide if it's really as bad as it's made out to be. The movie we're going to be looking at today is Joker Folie, the sequel to 2019's Joker. Folie was nowhere near as successful as its predecessor. The original Joker earned roughly $1 billion on a roughly $50 million budget, and currently has a 68 critic and 89 audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Joker Folie earned roughly $207 million on roughly a $200 million budget, and is currently sitting at 31 for audience and critic scores on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, the original Joker was never intended to have a sequel, so some people felt that this movie was a middle finger from writer-director Todd Phillips to the studio that forced him to make one. Other people felt it was a middle finger to the questionable audience that had cropped up around the movie over the years, though Phillips denied this. So with all that in mind, let's find out if Joker Folie is really that bad. Alright, we're here today to talk about Joker Folie. Before we get started, just to clarify all our relationships with this movie, I had never seen it before until we decided to do this. So I came into this with all of the knowledge of the criticism and the analysis and the bad review. You had both seen it already. So I have two questions for you guys, possibly. One, did you guys rewatch the movie for this? And two, if you did your opinion change on it? John the Younger?
Yes. Yes on both. I watched it like 2 hours ago, and somehow I hate this movie more than I did when I first seen it.
Elder?
I was one of the few people who went to the theaters and saw it. So I saw it in a movie theater, as you know, God intends people to see movies. I skimmed it, skimmed watched it very quickly, and then just out of curiosity, I watched what some YouTube thought of the movie in general. And man, when did YouTube just become mostly we just recap the movie and that's it with no actual analysis? When they say it's analysis, and all I do is just recap the movie scene by scene. But yeah, I think my opinion pretty much is the same from when I first saw it.
Okay. All right. So our first category we're going to talk about is the writing. So John the Younger, thoughts on the writing?
Jesus fucking Christ. Like, how did this movie happen, dude? How did they look at this script and were like completely okay with it? I don't understand. Like, I have a lot to say, but I don't really know how to structure it.
Well, I kind of answer his question a little bit because according to IMDb, Todd Phillips had complete creative control over this project. He ignored calls from the studio, insisted upon calling his movie a Warner Brothers movie, not a DC Studios movie. Actively avoided James Gunn and Peter Safran, who are the head of DC. Yeah, and he would only talk to apparently Warner Bros. Discovery CEO David Zaslav during the whole production, and that was it. So yeah, he had complete creative control. So that's how the movie got made. They just handed him a big check and said, "Go make us another one of those and make us a bunch of money."
All right, but what's your opinion on the writing?
I mean, it's fine. I wouldn't say it's like the best writing. There's some interesting stuff in here as far as the writing goes. I like that the movie opens. It's very old Hollywood, right? It's like a love letter to old Hollywood. So it opens with like an animated sequence. You saw like Roger Rabbit did this, Honey I Shrunk the Kids did this, but that used to be like you would go to the movies and you'd see a short, usually an animated short, before you'd see motion picture. So he's kind of thrown back to that. I think that's interesting. The old Hollywood feel of the movie, the musical numbers, the way he incorporates references to the Bandwagon, which is an old timey musical. They're watching it in the jail whenever they burn it down. They sing the song. I can't remember the name of the song. Sorry, but they sing a song for the Bandwagon. Lady Gaga does in the movie. So there's a lot of reference to that movie, and that's interesting too. And you begin to dissect that, and that was all clearly very intentional. But is it more than interesting? Because just because something's interesting doesn't mean it's good.
Okay, but what about the plot?
I would say, okay, here's how I word it. The subtext is interesting, but the plot is not good.
this is one of those movies that made me realize just because I agree with a movie politically does not mean the movie is good. Like, I understand that this movie is a fuck you to the incels, but what about the people who came to the theater to watch a good movie?
So my thoughts on this is the one word I would use to describe the entire thing is, if I had to put it in one word, I would say shallow. Like it never really commits too hard to anything. It doesn't seem like it doesn't fully go in on the musical aspect. The plot never really gets beyond surface level. I mean, it's just it sort of reeks of apathy to me.
I was going to say, like, imagine if this movie was the Joker movie and was the Joker sequel, and they just went all in on over the top Hollywood musicals numbers. That would be a way better movie
Interesting, yeah.
than what we got. Like if Arthur Fleck is having a fantasy anyway, when he's him and Lee are having a fantasy together anyway, when they do these big musical numbers, why not go all out? Where was that $200 million spent? The only time it looks like a $200 million movie is the last few minutes of the movie, the courthouse blowing up.
So apparently, Joaquin Phoenix especially, but Todd Phillips as well, wanted to do a sequel in the form of a Broadway musical. And the studio apparently wanted this, so I guess this was their sort of compromise, their attempt to make it somewhat happen. But I think, like you said, they didn't commit to it, and therefore it fell very flat.
Can you imagine though if they did do a Broadway musical like for a sequel to the Joe? What would that even look like? What
It
would
looks
that
similar
be?
to this because there's parts of a good movie here.
Yes, I agree.
I would say that there is elements of what could be a good movie here, but if they went all in with the musical element of it and had big elaborate musical numbers as opposed to these weird, dark, subtle, grungy, like a grunge version of Broadway, it would be way more interesting. Like if they went full old Hollywood for the fantasy sequence.
Well, that's kind of the problem with the whole movie, right? Like it struggles with its identity so heavily because it's tied to the first one. Like being tied to the original Joker movie made this movie much worse.
Yeah, and we're going to come back to the musical aspect a bit more in the production section later because that'll be included in that. I thought the characters were actually pretty well written, given the weak plot. I thought that I felt Harley, well, Lee is what she's called most of the time, but she's Harley Quinn. She felt like a real character to me. Like there are genuinely those women that just become obsessed with these,
With characters.
guys in prison,
Yeah.
and Harley felt like that to me. The Joker, he wasn't really the Joker in this. That was kind of
That
felt
was
like,
the point, though.
yeah, yeah, but the character was well written. I think, even if you didn't like the direction they took him, I thought it made sense.
Yeah, no, I would never push back against that. I just wish they did it in a more interesting
Yeah,
way.
I mean, Fleck goes on a journey, right? He has to accept himself, and that's kind of what this movie's about. He's the Joker, and he's constantly stripped of the Joker, right? That scene where the cops, after he has that big moment in the courtroom, and he really feels like the Joker could be finally taking over, and then the cops take him and beat him down and strip him of all of his Joker clothing, and he's there naked on the floor, and he's just Arthur Fleck again. And that's what the movie is really trying to drive home. And some of those moments are pretty powerful and they work, and then some of them don't, and it falls flat.
I think even in that courtroom scene, he never really becomes the Joker. That's where it's like, that's the pivotal scene where it's like, oh, the Joker is not real. Arthur Fleck is nothing these people think he is. The Joker is the idea that they've made up in their mind, and Arthur Fleck is just this sort of pathetic nobody who's not funny. And he when he tries to be the Joker, he fails miserably at it. When he tries to be what everyone wants him to be, he fails miserably at it.
Which to me is very odd given the ending of the original movie. Both of you have seen the original movie, right?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. I just have a hard time marrying those two concepts together. Like,
there is a definite disconnect, right?
Todd Phillips wrote this,
definitely.
and he also had another writer, but who also wrote on the first movie. I forget the gentleman's name, but they wrote this together, and there is a disconnect because it's almost like the first movie is maybe there is power in in being this and rising up type of vibe. And then this one is just like, no, these men are weak and pathetic, and we project this onto them.
Yeah,
So we're talking about the writing. So what are they trying to say
In the second one,
overall?
well, what they're trying to say in the first and second one are very, very different.
yeah. I said the first one. So if we hadn't done this, I wouldn't have watched the second one. Not because of the reviews, but because the first one did not need a sequel.
Yeah.
There was no reason to make one. So I had no interest in watching. I was going to leave it as it was in my mind and not worry about it. But it's clear that I don't know if he lost interest or if he really came to dislike.
I think that's what it was. I think that he came to dislike. I don't know if he disliked the movie itself, but he definitely came to dislike the fan base. That's 100% true.
If the two does kind of feel like, even though he said it wasn't, it does kind of feel like he's saying, you guys gravely misunderstood what I was trying to say in the first movie.
Included in the screenplay also is the TV movie, right? That's supposed to be like glorification. They all talk about how it glorifies the violence. There's a TV movie in this, and there's a movie within the movie universe that is essentially Joker, right? It glorifies him, makes him look awesome, it makes him look super cool. And I know, again, Todd Phillips has said 1,000 times that no, he's not trying to do anything like that. He's not trying to make a commentary on the fan base or the last movie he made. But why include that in the script?
I don't believe that.
Why have that? Because you could take the TV movie element almost out of it completely. It's just mentioned a few times.
Yeah, it like 3, maybe 4 times in the entirety of the movie.
So why have it in the script at all if that's not what he's trying?
And also, before we have to wrap this section up, this could have been an hour long.
Yes.
It would have been fine.
Yes.
There was a drug.
This movie is so long, dude. It is so long.
It's just, to me, as from the viewing experience, the worst part about it is that it's just boring.
The first 30 minutes of the movie is dreadfully slow.
Boring is the worst thing a movie could be.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I did watch this movie to the end. So it's not like one of the ones that I got up and turned it off, which is very rare for me. But it is dull. But there's enough peaks in it sometimes to where I'm like, okay, I'm a little back in it going. But it's not enough for a movie like this.
Well, I think a lot of the peaks are the acting, which we'll get to later. I think a lot of it's on Joaquin's and Lady Gaga's performances.
Yeah, I think a lot of part of that problem, like Elder said earlier, is that you get those moments where it starts to come up.
Yep.
But it never elevates from there. It always just kind of flattens out, and you just get...
Well, because I think that's the point, right? Like, Joker can't do anything super magnum opus-y and, like, blow up the courthouse and, like, have this huge plan, because then it glorifies him, and it kind of kills the point of the movie.
All right, well, let's wrap up this section. Yep. So, we'll give sort of a verdict at the end of each section at the final movie. So, Younger. Is it the writing? Is it good? Is it bad? Or is
Are we doing
okay?
like 1 out of 5s, like AB?
Good, bad, or okay?
Very bad. Like if we were doing 1 out of 5s, like a 1.52.
Elder?
Bad.
I'm gonna say bad. It's not the worst writing ever, but it's bad. All right, so next category: acting. Cast Joaquin Phoenix, Lady Gaga, Domino Gleeson.
Absolutely, they carry the movie.
Yeah.
This cast carries the movie. You've said Joaquin Phoenix, Lady Gaga. I want to watch her every time she's on screen. She's captivating in this movie. The supporting cast: Brendan Gleeson, Steve Coogan, Lee Gill, who plays Gary Puddles.
Yeah, Puddles is amazing.
But that scene, that scene brought me back into the movie.
Yeah, same. My favorite scene in the whole movie.
Yeah, when he gives his monologue.
Real quick, I said Domino Gleeson. You're right. It's actually Brendan Gleeson. Domino Gleeson is his brother that was in Star Wars. Yeah, it's Brendan Gleeson. Sorry, I got that wrong.
Yeah, but I want to talk about Lee Gill for just a second, because that performance in the court scene when he's running down, I think this is the thesis statement of the movie and what it's trying to say, because he has that amazing speech where he's saying, like, you were the only person that was nice to me, and you went and did these violent, heinous things. How could you turn out to be so cruel when you used to be so kind to me? And it breaks him. It's
Yeah.
like I will never. He basically says I'll never be the same. I can't work this out in my mind that someone so kind to me could be so cruel and turn into this. And I think that's the thesis of the movie at the end of the day.
I think it was kind of like thing he can never really trust anyone because
Mm.
Arthur was the one person that he thought was a good person, and it turns out he was the worst of them all.
Yep.
So he can never really trust someone after what happened.
Wow, what a scene! I'm literally got some chills right now, like just talking about that.
Yeah, that scene was amazing.
And I think what you said about it being the kind of the thesis of the film was kind of, I like that point because to me it felt like Todd Phillips sort of saying, yeah, you glorify what he did, but that's because you're not thinking of everyone else that was affected by what he did in the first.
The acting is absolutely like I don't think there's much else to be said other than talking these folks up.
Younger, you haven't said anything.
Yeah, do you want
Joaquin might be one of my favorite actors of all time. It seems like no matter the role he's given, no matter what he has to do, he goes 150 fucking %, and there's almost no one out there like him.
I think he genuinely cares about
Yes.
the roles he takes. And he did, he elevated this script big time.
him and Lady Gaga both?
Yes,
Yes,
Lady Gaga was
Gaga's
great.
amazing too.
The charisma from her just radiates off the screen. Every scene that she's in, I want to watch it.
And then by the end, they strip her of that charisma, which is another problem I have with the movie.
What do you mean they strip her?
Like whenever they're talking on the stairs at the very, very end of the movie.
Well, I think that's on purpose.
Yeah, it is. It 100% is.
Because she realizes she despises Arthur Fleck.
Yep.
That she was in love with the Joker.
Yep.
So that enthusiasm is gone.
Yeah.
And she even says, all we ever had was the fantasy and you ruined it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't think it's that she realized that she despises Arthur Fleck. I think she always knew it was the Joker that she loved. But I mean, part of the theme of this movie is identity, whether Arthur Fleck and Joker are two separate entities. I think she thought he was the Joker. That's who he really was. And then she's like, oh, no, he's not. This was it was all just a fantasy. Why did you ruin the fantasy?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, I also think the point of the movie a little bit was to character assassinate these characters a bit.
See, I don't think it was. I don't think the first movie was supposed to glorify the characters. I think
No.
To me, it felt like him saying, "This is how you should really feel about this character."
Yeah.
Not the way you felt after watching the first one.
I'm not talking about Arthur Fleck. I'm not talking about Arthur Fleck's Joker. I'm talking about Joker and Harley Quinn from DC. I feel like the point a little bit was to character assassinate.
But allegedly, Todd Phillips really did not like the source material in the comics. Like John mentioned earlier, he was given notes by Peter Safran and James Gunn, and he just ignored them. He didn't want anything to do with DC Studios or the comic books. So it's sort of alleged that he had some issues with source. But one thing I loved, and there was some subtlety in this one thing where the script was very subtle. The guard, Brendan Gleeson's character, he gets him into the singing class, and at the end when Arthur and Lee are talking in the hallway, he's in there like singing with the guy, and you realize he only got him into that class so that he could go to that class. Like when he said,
that's fun.
"Yeah, I got you into that class. Oh, I have to go with you." You can picture him with the warden saying, "Well, of course I'll go with him."
Yeah,
He just wanted to go to the singing class, so he got Arthur into it. And I thought that was a pretty cool, subtle little character thing. That kind of goes back to the writing, but Brendan Gleeson is a fantastic actor.
He is.
He's always good.
I think the acting in this movie is amazing. I highly doubt there will be anyone who would dispute that.
Yeah, I mean, generally, universally, I think everyone did a
amazing.
great job. Again, this is a case of the actors taking a not so good script and just making something good out of it as best as they could.
Was Joaquin worth $20 million?
Yes.
Because Lady Gaga was absolutely 100% worth her $12 million.
I think Joaquin Phoenix was, like I said, he wasn't the issue with the movie at all.
He is this movie, in my opinion.
I absolutely think he was worth his price tag. I think they all were. Again, it's not their fault.
No.
Younger, acting, good, bad, okay?
Amazing. 5 out of 5. As close as you can get to it.
Good. I think we're all in agreement that it's good. All right, our next category is production. This is going to be a bit of a catch-all category. It's going to be sort of everything that doesn't fit into the other three categories. Elder, why don't you go first on this one?
So production is kind of the catch-all. I just had like just some interesting things. We talked about the gun situation. I just wanted to read some stuff that I pulled from IMDb that I find fascinating about this movie that kind of doesn't really go, I guess, more post-production than some of this. But the Joker, the first Joker movie, grossed more money in its opening weekend than this film did in its entire theatrical run. Deadline estimated that Warner Brothers lost $144 million. Again, we already mentioned that the movie cost $200 million to make, $20 million to Todd Phillips, $20 million to Joaquin Phoenix, and $12 million to get Lady Gaga on board.
Which 200 million, and that's just the production budget. That's
Yes.
not
including
marketing,
the crazy
Yeah.
marketing
distribution.
campaign that they went through. The commercial we saw all the time of Lady Gaga pregnant, doing the dancing on the courthouse steps and all that stuff. I think we should talk about the musical numbers. I find them really interesting. I find the song choice interesting. I just wanted to go into the bandwagon connection because I don't really know where else we'll talk about this. I mentioned it briefly, but the movie The Bandwagon, are you guys familiar with the movie, the musical?
No, not at
Broadway
all.
Musical? So it's about a guy named Tony Hunter, played by Fred Astaire, who's attempting to come back by directing a new Broadway musical. He's kind of a washed director. He's going to make a new musical that's going to entertain the masses, right? That vibe. But he's constantly thwarted by an actor and stage director who's like one of these pretentious, brilliant types who's secretly, like on the day of, he'll come in. The comedy comes from him rewriting the fun script to be really like highbrow and falutin, and the comedy comes from it clashing with everyone really just wanting to see a fun musical. And so that's entertainment, as the song prominently featured in the movie. The movie itself is shown a couple times in the movie. I just think it's interesting, the plot of that movie and its prominent placement, and even using the song number from it, like the plot, and then looking at what Todd Phillips and company might be trying to say with the movie.
Yeah, there probably is a bit of commentary on because like I mentioned earlier, it was never intended to be a sequel. The studio wanted it. So there could have been also a bit of stop interfering in artistic work.
Yeah, so in this situation, is the studio the pretentious meddlers and DC, and Todd Phillips himself is the fun guy trying to make a fun musical? Like, is that what he's trying to say, you think? Like, he wanted to make this a fun musical, and it was DC and Warner Brothers who got their fingers in it and kind of trying to make it this falutin thing.
How would you make this into a fun musical?
But I think it would work better with big, giant, fun musical
could-
numbers.
You could absolutely do that, I think.
I can't even imagine what
The
that movie would
wild
look
contrast between those dark moments with big, giant musical numbers would be crazy. I would love to see that.
like. I mean, it's an interesting
Would it
idea.
be good? But I don't know. But I think it'd be more interesting than the movie.
Yeah, probably.
So one thing I heard a lot, a criticism I heard a lot, was that Joaquin Phoenix's Arthur Fleck's singing in the musical sequences was off key, which was intentional. It was obviously intentional. But do you guys think that was a good thing or a bad thing?
I didn't even notice it.
I did notice it, and I don't know how intentional it was and how much it might be covering for Joaquin, because I saw, when doing research for this, I saw some interviews with Todd Phillips, read some interviews with Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix both, where they talked about how Lady Gaga was constantly vocal coaching, trying to help him through some, that they even did some rehearsals together prior to filming. So I wonder how much of that is.
But also, like, if they wanted it to sound good, they could have just fixed it in post.
That's also,
They could have put him into key pretty easily.
that is also.
To me, it felt kind of intentional, because it was like, even in Arthur's fantasies, he still sees himself as inferior.
That's interesting.
That's very interesting.
Because he's already got Lee on a pedestal.
Mm.
He sees her, like, she's always wonderful and great. He's like obsessed with her. And, she's Lady Gaga, so of course she's singing very well in all those sequences. It felt like it was just more like Arthur Fleck not truly believing in himself.
That's an interesting way to spin it. I'm not 100% sure if I agree with it, but I like the idea.
That's just me trying to come up with a
Sure,
reason
yeah,
why
yeah.
they would do that. Because I don't see, like, again, in the modern age, if you don't want someone to be off key, they're not going to be off key.
Yeah, that's true. I have a feeling that it's a lot less deep than that, I guess. I have a feeling it's just, why would Arthur Fleck be able to sing good?
Kind of putting this back in the realm of production, I hated that the lighting was almost the same in the musical numbers, except like for a little, like it wasn't even the lighting change. The lighting was almost the same in the musical numbers as it was in the film. They just had some pops of color to show that it was a fantasy, really.
Yeah.
Which, like, I didn't want the musicals again to look all grimy and grungy and gross.
Well, that's actually what I was going to ask about next, was the look of it. Because I felt like the cinematography was pretty similar to the first one. But you're right, the musical numbers, it felt like should have popped more.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this one had a lot less cool shots, if that makes any sense.
Well, it was just more static than the first one was. I mean, Arthur doesn't really do much. He's usually sitting in a room just
monologuing.
Yeah, the interesting thing about Joker is how much it looked like a Martin Scorsese movie with a DC character in it. Like, that's kind of what made Joker so interesting. It was obviously borrowed a lot from Scorsese, but it did look and kind of feel like an early Scorsese movie. The style, the way things were blocked, that big shot up the stairs during the dance number and all that sort of stuff.
The most famous shot in the whole movie.
It was all the over the shoulders and cars and the flashing of the lights of people looking out windows. It was very New York. Like, I know it's Gotham, but stand-in for New York. It had that sleazy old Scorsese style of cinematography and lighting. And this one was just dull.
It reminded me of bad DC movies. Like, the way a lot of it looked, it reminded me of like Batman versus Superman or Suicide Squad.
It was slightly Snyder-esque. I don't think it's quite as bad as Snyder.
No.
Because Snyder is not just his cinematography. It's like
it's everything.
The actual colors he uses for everything, plus the cinematography, just makes everything look brown. In this movie, there were colors. Everything was just toned down muted, so much.
Yeah.
Like the look, it wasn't bad.
No.
It was consistent.
Yeah.
And I think it works for the tone of the movie. But I thought he could have been a little more creative with it.
As soon as we left the courthouse, though, and they're in that explosion, I thought the cinematography turned around. I loved the style that chaos was shot in.
Oh,
the explosion and the chase through the streets whenever Fleck runs away from the madmen in the masks that are.
I really like the ending shot. Sorry.
All of those things are shot in an interesting way. And then maybe it's just because they had the same cinematographer, Joker 1 and Joker 2. Maybe that's just the confined spaces. There's only so much you can do with that blocking. And then when we get to the big musical numbers, you want it to be shot in the wides and in the close-ups and in the wides. And so maybe there was only so much that he could play with. Lawrence Sher is the cinematographer. Like only so much room for him to play with in this one. But as soon as we break the confines of these tiny sets, it really shines, I think, the cinematography.
I love the ending shot. Like it's not the very last scene, but the scene whenever he goes to meet Harley on the stairs and it slowly pans up to the stairs to where all this Joker shit began, and I guess by all means where it's going to end. It's something that I really, I noticed it immediately on my first watch, and then on my second watch, I noticed it again, and I really love the callback.
All right, so final conclusions. Production, John the Younger.
Mid.
Elder.
It's okay.
I'm gonna say it's okay. Yeah, I think we all agree they could have taken some more chances with it, but what they did was solid. All right, our final category, directing. Todd Phillips' work here. Todd Phillips, solid director in general. Great work on the first one. Elder, I'm sure you have thoughts about this.
I don't like the Todd Phillips evil genius conspiracy theories. This is where I wanted to talk about. Tarantino talks about this, where Todd Phillips is a genius because he's the Joker of filmmaking. This is a middle finger to the studios and his own audience, right? Like that's what he says. Like, this is Tarantino prescribes to this. I think this is bullshit. He did not make a bad movie on purpose. There's too many people involved. There's jobs on the line, too much money. I do not believe Todd Phillips went in here with the intention of being like, I'm going to burn this whole production down because I can. And I'm so cool. I'm going to flip my cigarette ash in a canister of film and it's all going to burn down. And then I'm going to run away with my $20 million paycheck. I don't believe that's what happened. There's too much competency in this movie. And we just talked about it. There's too many good aspects of this movie that could have been good that were right there. It was like some of it was there and some of it we saw, but it just misses the mark. And I think it started with a bad script.
Younger?
I don't disagree with you saying that he wasn't making a bad movie on purpose, but I do think that he was actively saying fuck you to the DC fan base, to the fan base of the original movie, and to people who identify with the Joker.
We could get into that a little bit here. It's not really directing, but Todd Phillips has said that he had no intention of ever doing that. But I also want to point out that even before the wide release of the Joker in October of 2009, I believe, in September
2019.
2009.
Sorry, excuse me.
Like,
I'm 10 years behind.
Right.
In 2019, in September, it debuted at a film festival in August, and in September there was already articles coming out about it being an incel movie, and then articles like The Guardian had a pretty famous article where they gave it a positive review and defended it against that, and saying that people who said it was an incel movie aren't reading between the lines enough and looking at the subtext of the movie, which has ended up why we're here now talking about this whole incel middle finger thing. I just find that interesting that even before a wide release audience got to see it, this was already the debate. We had already decided this was the debate we were going to have about the Joker.
That is interesting.
And I think it does kind of it changes. I think it makes us view this movie, the sequel, through that lens. Right. So maybe we are projecting that a bit onto this movie, and maybe it's not there. But again, I can't believe that because of the inclusion of the the TV movie that's so blatantly and on the nose, I think, stating him almost criticizing the way some people viewed it.
Well, the very ending of the movie, the way he dies is like it's a setup. It's almost a punchline, right? Like that's almost the point. I can't see this movie as not a middle finger in some way.
Phillips has also defended his ending. He's saying that Fleck has finally accepted who he is, so it's a positive ending for Fleck. Yes, Fleck dies, but at least he gets to die being himself. He's lived a miserable life. Nothing ever good ever happens to Arthur Fleck. And he's basically being put out of his misery, but at least he's being put out of his misery being himself. And Todd Phillips has said in interviews that to him is a happy ending for a man like Arthur. That's from the director's.
So, my opinion on this, again, I watched all this well after all the controversy. I agree with you that he didn't set out to make a bad movie. And I don't know if he intended it to be a fuck you to anyone. It really does seem like it.
It does. It really does.
Like all the subtext tells me that that's what he meant. But here's the thing. I think he made the movie he wanted to make, and I think he did a good job not necessarily from a writer standpoint, but from a director standpoint, he did a good job at making the movie that he wanted to make.
I think that's, like I said this earlier, I think the subtext makes for an interesting discussion. It's unfortunate that the text itself, this being the movie, isn't as interesting as the discussion.
You brought up earlier some of his scene choices were a little dull, but again, that's not what this movie was. This movie was supposed to be kind of dull. Because I think that was the point, like Arthur Fleck is not actually an interesting character. He is exactly who he was in the first movie. He's just sort of a sad, pathetic guy. His life is not very interesting, so the movie's sort of intentionally kind of slow and dull. But again, I don't think it was intentionally bad. I think it was just artistic choices that just don't fit a movie, a big blockbuster movie.
Which, like, I think, like, if you're going to do a sequel to the original Joker movie, right, there's two ways you can take it. You can have him go full Joker mode and be, like, all edgy and all that shit. Or you can do this route, but it seems like he didn't even really fully commit to this route either. Am I wrong about that?
That's what that was gonna be a question I was gonna ask. What would have been satisfying Joker sequel? Like, what would have made fans happy?
Well, I don't think you
Like Kane
do a
already
sequel.
stated, we didn't need it, but the studio was gonna have it one way or the other, whether Todd directed it or not.
I think you could have made a good movie. You could have made a sequel to this movie that was a good movie. I don't think you could have ever made a good sequel. There's a difference between it being a good sequel to the original and just being a good movie. You could do that. I mentioned earlier apathy. It feels like there was a lot of apathy here at a certain points. Like either that or he just didn't want to give one of these issues that much effort, so he just gave a few of them a little bit of effort.
I think there's an angle you can take that is really, really interesting if you want to go down the route of Arthur Fleck is actually a little bitch boy. Like, you could do like an interesting critique on what the Joker character has become in modern day, but whatever this is, isn't that.
I think it would have been way more successful had it gone straight over the top. Oh, we recently on our Halloween special talked about Texas Chainsaw Massacre and its sequel a little. So Texas Chainsaw Massacre sequel went straight horror comedy, over the top horror comedy. If the Joker 2 Folie à Deux, or Joe, I'm sorry, not the, you can't say the Joker. Todd Phillips gets very angry. He's not the Joker. He is just a Joker. He's a Joker. So Joker 2 Folie à Deux. If they would have went full musical, the musical numbers would be these brightly lit, like fantastical things. Like what he is watching Hollywood movies and their fantasy. Why do they not look like those Hollywood movies? They should. And if it looked like that, and the contrast of these dark, dank prison scenes, I think would have made for a more interesting movie. And if they picked better song choices.
Yeah, I don't know who they had like writing the musical numbers on it.
They're all old show tunes.
Are they all pre-existing songs?
Yeah, they're all covers of pre-existing show tunes.
Like, at least the arrangements, like, you got Lady Gaga there. Why not have her do the arrangements? Or, like, I'm not sure who did it. They
The songs were kind of uninspired, really.
Yeah.
Well, I think the musical elements are consistently the worst part of this movie.
All right, so time for the conclusion, the wrap up of this. Directing, Younger.
It depends, right? Like, what was he trying to do?
Well, so let's say, did he do a good job accomplishing what you think he set out to do as a director?
Yes, I do.
So
it's good.
Good. Elder?
Yeah, I mean, when the movie, I'm gonna say okay.
I'm gonna say good because, again, like I said earlier, I think he did what he wanted to do.
I do as well.
And their context is kind of important. There's like good succeeding at what you're attempting and what you're attempting being good are two separate things.
Mm-hmm.
He succeeded at what he was trying to do, so I'm gonna say good. All right, so this brings us to our final conclusion. So our answers here, we're going to say, our question here, is it really that bad? So we're going to say, yes, it's really that bad, or no, it's not really that bad. Saying no does not mean it's not bad. It just means it's not as bad as its reputation makes it out to be. So tell me, yes, it's really that bad, no, it's really that bad, and just give me a brief summary of why. All right, Younger?
Yes, this movie is boring as hell when it's not offensive. Like, any movie that is boring is almost more offensive to me than one that is actively bad. In this movie, like, for at least the first 30 minutes is so boring.
So your conclusion, yes, it's really that bad.
Yeah, I mean, its reputation isn't even that bad from what I understand. It's just like a lot of people didn't really like it. I never hear it in like the worst movies of all time conversations or anything.
I think it'll be there.
You think so?
All right, John the Elder.
So no, I really don't think it's that bad. Like, it has all of the hallmarks of eventual cult classic movie, I feel like something that could be discovered 10 years from now and find an audience. It's got the musical numbers, it's got the poor box office reception. It just feels like one of those things that could be, watched in a theater and people scream at the screen and throw trash at it, But in addition to that, the acting's great. Everyone in it is fantastic. Joaquin Phoenix, Lady Gaga, Brendan Gleeson, Steve Coogan. We didn't even talk about Steve Coogan's scene. That almost seems like an homage to Oliver Stone's Natural Born Killers. Lee Gill, who plays Gary Puddles, is amazing and should be put in more things. And I think the writing. I think it was a weak script that drug down. It was a weak script that drug down what could have been a decent movie.
All right, my conclusion: it's not really that bad. Like, I agree with your point. I think 15, 20 years from now, the opinions on this will change. But and this might upset. I know it's probably going to upset some people. But here's the thing: Joker was good, but it wasn't really that good. And yeah, this movie's bad, but it's not that bad. Like, it's not. It's just not, guys. I mean, it's like Elder said. Or Younger said, it's boring. And yes, that's offensive in its own way. But it's really not that bad. Its biggest sin is being boring. As far as everything else goes, it's not badly done. I know a lot of people just didn't like what they did with the character, but it was a coherently told, if somewhat flat story.
Yeah, I feel like whenever you say, and especially with John's generation, who were so upset by the direction that they took the character, right? I would think of that meme with from the Coen Brothers movie with James Franco go looking at first time, like, yeah, we've had a lot of characters ruined in our lifetime, and they bring them back. Sometimes they bring them back into a better movie, and sometimes they don't. So we had the Joker, ruined almost before with Zack Snyder, and well, that wasn't Zack Snyder. Oh, Suicide Squad.
David Ayer.
David Ayers, yeah, in that DC version, and with Jared Leto's version, and we brought him back. We can bring him back again. It's fine. It's not. It didn't ruin your beloved classic. The Joker. Excuse me. Can't say the Joker is still there. You can go back and watch it anytime you want to, and the sequel exists.
Yeah. It's far from the worst sequel that's ever existed.
Yeah, you're not gonna see me hounding you all for this opinion. It's whatever. This movie means nothing to me. What interests me more about this movie in general is what's going on in Todd Phillips' head, like a lot more than what's actually going on screen. You know
we
what I mean?
talked about it a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I don't even know what you call them, conspiracy theories, but there's theories out there that Phillips did this on purpose, was flipping the whole world off. Now gonna live somewhere on a pile of $20 million and never make another movie, I guess. Like, you just don't bomb a movie on purpose and tank your entire career to prove a point. I just don't think you do that.
I don't think that was the idea either. I don't think he was trying to make a bad movie or anything. But I do think it was an active fuck you to DC fans, to the people who like the first ones, to the incels who brought it back. I just think the whole point of the movie is a little bit of a fuck you.
All right, so do we want to come to one final conclusion? Do we want to leave it at individual conclusions?
I think consensusly, the answer to the question, is it really that bad? Not really.
No, it's
No.
not. No.
Hang out with us on Instagram, TikTok, and the YouTube at CH13 Network, at those places. Come join us. TikTok is starting to pick up some steam. Our YouTube shorts starting to pick up some steam. For the love of God, join us on Instagram. We need some people over there to hang out with us.